Hey guys, it's Dan from ShastaBubba Adventures, and this is day one of my annual long trip. And this will be sort of a lollipop-shaped route, crossing over Headquarters Pass and into the North Fork of the Sun. And ultimately, I'll be traveling along the section that's known as the North Wall. Now, a lot of people have heard of the Chinese Wall, and if you follow my videos, I traveled along the top of that last year. Well, this is a section that is to the north of that doesn't get visited very often. It's not quite as dramatic and spectacular, but in some ways it's more beautiful and varied terrain. And so I'm really looking forward to this trip for a number of reasons I'll be explaining as we go along. Got a good start. It's about 10:30 at the trailhead, and weather looks to be pretty good. Might be a little smoky here and there, but nothing we can't handle. All right, let's go. Headquarters Pass just happens to be the highest possible route of all of the possible routes to access the Bob Marshall Wilderness. It climbs a little over 2,000 feet in about 3 miles, and it's a very steep trail as well. So you might ask yourself, why would anybody in their right mind use this access point? Well, first off, it's just convenient because it comes down right sort of in a central area at the North Fork of the Sun and Gates Park, which gives you access to pretty much the entire eastern side of the wilderness. Second, the access road is very good. It's one of the longest paved roads getting close to the edge of the Bob Marshall Wilderness that I'm aware of. Most of the other ones are anywhere from 15 to 50 bone-jarring miles of gravel road. So that makes a difference. And most of all, it's stunning, which for my money makes it worth the effort to get up here. So I've reached the first high plateau, and there's another major chunk to go to the top of the pass. But I wanted to stop a moment and tell you about the last time I came through here was about 10 years ago, and as I stood on this spot, it started to snow, even though it was the same time of year, end of August, early September. And by the time I got to the top of the pass, I was pretty hypothermic. I did have a puffy layer with me, but it was a down coat, and I was afraid to pull it out and put it on because I knew it would get soaked. And I was thinking I probably would still need it by the time I got down to the other side to get out of the mild hypothermia that I was already in, just from wearing a raincoat over a short sleeve shirt like this. I also was hauling a 45-pound pack at the time, and I had a new pair of shoes and very stiff in the back, so between the muddy trail and the concave trail going down the other side and sliding around, I had severely bruised my Achilles tendon areas in both legs. So I did something that I don't think I've ever had to do before, which was take a rest day, and then I had to bail on the entire trip. I had planned to do this trip at that time 10 years ago and had to give up on it and limp back out over Headquarters Pass on the third day. And at the time, I thought that was probably the death of my backpacking career. Thankfully, that's when I discovered ultralight backpacking, and I gradually transitioned to that. And I've since then been able to hike much, much further than I ever did before, and I've logged probably 300 miles every year since then. So to me, this trip is significant in that sense because I'm redoing the hike that was the end of my heavy hauling career. That's part of the significance of this trip for me. I'll tell you more later. are the three sisters, and just to the left you can just barely make out a little bit of the actual Chinese wall, the southern section. camped just across the pack bridge that is over the North Fork of the Sun, right next to Gates Park. And it's a lovely, wonderful campsite right next to the river, and got it all to myself. So I'm pretty thrilled with that. Beautiful day, beautiful weather, and looks like 12 miles exactly for today, and 2,000 feet elevation gain, and I believe it's about the same in loss to come down into this North Fork of the Sun area. It's still pretty warm, so that gave me the opportunity to take a little dip in the stream. Even though it's pretty cool, it felt really good and refreshing, since it is probably, I think, about 75 degrees out still. For tonight, as usual, eating cold on the first night out. I've just got some little beef sticks from Costco and some cheese on bagels. So keep it simple. Looks like this is going to be a really wonderful place to camp tonight. It's a good start. Alright, I'll see you tomorrow. Well, good morning. There's a lot of things I love about postponing my long trip until after Labor Day. There's the beginning of the beautiful fall colors and almost nobody out in the wilderness. Still haven't seen anybody on this trip. But one downside is shorter days and cold nights. It got down to 36 degrees last night. So there's a pretty good frost on everything. And I was up at 7, but the sun only now is peeking over the ridge at about 8:15. So there's not enough sun to dry things out or even melt the ice. And I certainly learned another thing. I've been using a backcountry bidet this season to see how that works. And here's a tip. It's not so fun when there's ice chunks in your bidet water. So note to self. Try to keep the bidet water thawed out. Alright, well, I've already eaten a cold breakfast appropriately, and about ready to just bite the bullet and pack everything up. I'll probably have to take some time later on to spread everything out and let it dry out, but I'm not in a huge hurry on this day, and really looking forward to getting up. And today I'll get up to see the beginning of the north section of the wall, so that should be pretty cool. Alright, get packed up and let's go. Planning in this trip was expecting to hike this Red Shale Creek trail in the morning when it was still fairly cool, and that's paying off this morning. Pretty hazy with the smoke, which is also helping to keep it cool. Almost there. One of the big question marks of this trip was whether I would climb up to Sauk Lake or not. And I had studied it on the map and with Google Earth, and it seemed like a solid maybe, but I knew I wouldn't be able to tell for sure until I was right here on the ground checking it out. And that's where it is. It's probably kind of hard to see with the haze, but it's in a little cirque right past that rim and before the top of the ridge. And pretty sure I'm not going to try that tonight. So I've taken a little time to lay out my gear and let things dry out from the heavy condensation last night. And my decision not to climb up to Sauk Lake has made it a lot easier for the rest of the trip, because I actually can go about another 6 miles to the North Fork of Lick Creek today, no problem, get there by 6 easy. Then the whole rest of the trip is fairly low mileage, 12 to 15 max. Just like the south wall, the north wall is not one straight long feature with a trail running along its base, but actually it's a series of scallop shapes, and each one being like a crescent that has a bowl in the middle and a ridge at the point of each side of the crescent. And it can be a little tiring, a little wearing to hike along this, because you climb up one side and as soon as you get to the top you got to climb way down in again. You might not even be able to see the far side of this crescent. There's so much smoke in the air. But this one cost me 800 feet elevation loss and gain back up the other side, and it took almost 2 hours for me to cross from rim to rim, although I might have been slowed up somewhat by the smoke in the air and the lateness of the hour. And here's the next big scallop to have to climb down in. This is going down into the drainage of the North Fork of Lick Creek, and I'm betting that there's some good camping down in there. I'm hoping I'm right, because I'm kind of committed to it. Well, I'm in kind of an odd situation. I met a ranger this morning, rode into my camp down at the Sun River, and we chatted a bit, very friendly fellow, and I asked him about campsites up here along the wall, and he referenced a really good campsite that was obvious and had water available. And so I passed up several pretty good sites that didn't quite match that description, thinking that it must be just a little bit further on. But now I've got to this junction in the trail, and down this direction is the North Fork of Lick Creek. And I kind of think that's what he was talking about, but there's also another spot up the trail that I'm going on that is a possibility too. So it's 6 o'clock and it's half a mile down that way to the site that I'm thinking might be the one he was talking about, and it's 3/10 of a mile up that way. to the other site that looks like it might work according to the map. And so I don't want to guess wrong. I'm kind of too tired to backtrack tonight, and so I decided to just stop and make dinner right here in the middle of the trail, because once I've had dinner, then I can fill up my water bottles. Sorry, I should have mentioned, there's a beautiful creek just right here, and so I can have dinner, fill up my water bottles, and then it won't matter if I have to dry camp. So that's what we're doing. Well, I've already packed up the stove while dinner's been rehydrating, because even though I've only seen one person today besides the ranger, this makes me pretty nervous to be making dinner in the middle of the trail. But I think I'm probably pretty safe, but still want to have fewer things to pick up. And I do want to pack up and get going as soon as I'm done with dinner, so I can get to the potential campsite. And for dinner tonight, just having a little fazool that my wife makes at home. It's no special recipe for backpacking or anything, but she makes a big batch and I take the extra and throw it on the dehydrator, and that's all you need to do, and it works out great. It just takes 10 minutes to rehydrate on the trail, just like any other trail backpacking food, but it's a lot better. Perfect. Well, I think I was both right and wrong to keep going. Pretty sure that the large campsite that the ranger was talking about was down that Lick Creek trail, but it looked like it lost elevation fast, so I think I don't regret not going down and losing half a mile of elevation and distance. But it's definitely not up here, although I did find this beautiful spot out of nowhere, kind of close to the trail. But hopefully there'll be no bears along during the night. There is water available, but only a trickle. And there she is. Not too bad for a stealth site, I have to say. Pretty decent view. That'll be lit up first thing in the morning. Well, I got my camp all set up, and I think it's none too soon because the wind is picking up a little bit. It's already down to 56 degrees, so might be a little bit of a chilly one, but I think I'm tucked away pretty good for the night. So the tally for the day looks like 15 miles and somewhere over 3,000 feet elevation gain, and not counting the loss, which actually was over 1,000. Pretty significant going down into all those bowls. So I have good reason to be tired tonight, but that's really gonna set up a great next 3 days of having all the time in the world, not having to hustle at all. 3 pretty easy days. So I think it was worth it, and looks like it's gonna turn out. Not camping in exactly the spot that I planned to, but that's part of camping in the wilderness. You gotta kind of take what comes, and certainly I'm grateful for this. So, all right, everybody, thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.